Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode where today we're looking at my sculling technique in the Lamborghini, name yet to be determined. So one way to really help with looking at my technique is not only obviously speaking to my coach and looking at video and looking at my videos and seeing how we can do and seeing how it feels and adjusting from there. We can also put some different gates on. These gates here will attach to there, so we're going to replace those gates and get some telemetry on the boat. So we'll be able to tell the angles, we'll be able to tell the power, assuming we've set them up correctly, while I'm actually on the water. Then we can come off the water, get the data out, and analyze the data and see kind of if the angles are right, because you don't want to be hitting too short of an angle or too long of an angle. You want to be hitting the right amount of power. You can also see different things, and I'll probably have a little bit of a chat about that later, but we have to set this up a little bit. It's not too complicated. And then we look at the water. Yeah, squad. Look at that water out there. Hopefully it stays a little bit flat, or at least as flat as that, because that would be absolutely fantastic, and it would mean that I can get maximum probability of getting what I should be able to get technique angles wise, and not letting the conditions interfere with that, even though water is a rowing sport and it doesn't really matter, you have to deal with the conditions you're given. But we'll get this boat sorted and then we'll get on the water. Oh, yeah. And we've got a lot of tape on the boat because we've not got all the sticky stuff, but every stripe is an extra split, so I should be breaking the world record on today's pieces. Not quite, but basically in here replace the gates with these telemetry gates, and it's basically very simply force measuring devices, because I realistically don't know how it does it, but it gives you some data, the angles, and then the gate travels, the force applied to the gates, and then it makes graphs and stuff that hopefully we'll see maybe later, but at least I can talk about the data that we get. The data goes into this little box here, and then we can see how it all goes. You can actually get a live readout as well, which should be exciting. But now, time to take this boat on that water. So let's get to it. Okay, so what we're going to do, instead of just having footage of the water and then chatting about the footage after the fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a chat and then intersperse some rowing footage, hopefully, that is going to be to do with what I'm talking about right now, hopefully in the Lamborghini, yet to be determined, which is above me. So the technique that I'm working on, or the techniques changes that I'm trying to work on, are relatively basic, especially because I'm technically still a novice in the single scull, as I've basically been sculling for about 8 months roughly. So the things that, even though I would love to work on some really complex things in the single scull, it's not the case with me currently. I need to work on the simple things first so I can build on those, create a good foundation, and then build up from there. So today, and in general, a lot of the stuff I'm working on is to do with confidence, and once I'm feeling confident, I can then build off of that and improve the other basic changes that I'm trying to work on. A big thing I'm trying to work on now, as we discovered from trials a couple of weeks ago now, or was it last week? Last video ago, I felt much better in the side-by-side race when I rode a bit shorter, versus in the time trial, I rode longer, rated lower, and it felt much more difficult and much less efficient. And so my coach Tom and I, we've been having a little chat. Why is that? Where does that efficiency or inefficiency come from? And it's not because, oh, I'm rowing too long. That's not what we're kind of looking at. And that's why we kind of looked at the telemetry today, put the telemetry in the boat and see, am I rowing too long? Am I rowing too short? Where should I be rowing? So the thought might have been, okay, am I rowing? How long am I actually rowing? Is it the right? Are the angles correct? Am I overworking in that regard? So how am I making it so difficult for myself when I try to row that bit longer? And this is where the technique changes, the focuses that I'm trying to focus on come in. And it's a lot of it is actually to do with how I rode, I rode in a sweet boat, especially in an 8. I always, or generally always, looked for more work. I looked to make it feel heavy. I looked to make it feel like I was grabbing and trying to move the world, where in reality, especially in the single scull, that's not the case. So when I was rowing shorter, I was shallower. I wasn't looking for as much work because I was trying to rate higher and I was just trying to tap the boat along. When I try to rate longer, what happens is I tend to dip forward, so there's more weight coming into the foot plate, and then it makes it more difficult for me to change direction properly the other way, and then so both of those things combined make it heavier off the front end, combined with the fact that I'm trying to look for more work at the front end, means it's a 3 probably other reasonfold way of making the front end much, much heavier than it needs to be, and therefore overworking everything pretty much, and not giving me a chance to just snap it through with the hips and work through the whole drive. So that's, in a nutshell, what I'm kind of trying to work on, is the fact that I don't have to move the world, and I have to try and take the technique that I had when I'm trying to row a bit shorter, so just tapping along, but take the idea into longer rowing. So what I can do from there is making sure the weight is both down in the hands in that sort of last few degrees towards the catch, so I'm not just picking up, and also the weight is down in the hands, not in the shoulders. On top of that, like I mentioned, the change in direction in the feet, I'm on the feet and pushing off. I'm not dipping down, the weight's not up high, and I'm not wasting energy. I'm trying to, if this is the foot plate, I'm trying to get off the foot plate and push off. I'm not trying to put all my weight forward, shoulders come down, arms or hands go down, then I find the water, shoulders tense up, grab with the arms, and then miss the catch and try and work with my upper body. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is land nice and relatively soft on the foot plate, but even if I don't land soft, the biggest thing is the timing on the foot plate. So I'm trying to land on the foot plate when my blades are pretty much already in the water, so that I'm not landing, catching, driving. It's more a case of I'm catching, landing, driving, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to catch before I land, so it's a big timing issue there as well. So all in all, timing correctly and not trying to overwork, which ties into timing correctly. So hopefully that makes sense, Yam Squad. Hopefully there was some footage in there that kind of made sense as well. As you can probably see, there's points there where it looks like I'm working really hard that I don't necessarily have to. Blades going a little bit deeper. The square not really happening as early as I would like to, and that's one of the things as well, combining that with the confidence when I'm almost there. I'm definitely getting better than I have been previously, but it's just a case of I need to be able to be a bit smoother and just let the boat do what it wants to do, rather than trying to over control the boat and overthink and trying to adjust for things that aren't going to happen. Be a bit more relaxed, shoulders down, hands relaxed, not clenching up, because again, that's what I kind of tend to do, especially if the water's a bit choppy. Hence, when the water's a bit flatter, I can go a bit faster, because when it gets a bit choppy, I tense up both in the hands and the shoulders, which then ties into bad timing on the front, and then it leads to more weight dipping down into the front end, more work being created, and then just not being efficient. So I might be able to generate very quick speeds, but just not for very long at all. So, Yam Squad, what do you think of the thoughts so far on my rowing technique, especially the things that we've been working on today? Let me know in the comments below if you think there are other things I should be working on. I think that's, obviously there's only a few things you should be working on at one time. You don't want to overload it, but I really appreciate the feedback from the Yam Squad. Try this, do that, do this, and see how it goes. Just because when there's more eyes on the technique or something, there's probably more eyes that can see an error that maybe I might miss, or something really simple that I'm just like, oh, why haven't I tried that? Or even something more complicated that I may just not have thought of yet. So enjoy the rest of the rowing footage here, and I'll see you after the session. Oh yeah. And we have made it outside of the Scottish Rowing Centre after some lovely rowing today here at Strathclyde Park. And it's been an interesting one today, good session on the water. The water didn't stay quite as flat as it was this morning, unfortunately, but rowing is a rowing sport and we have to row on the water in the conditions that we are given. But obviously if it's terrible, maybe not. But conditions were perfectly fine to row on today and it was pretty good. Like I talked about earlier, the technique that we're working on, definitely improving and using the telemetry as well. I'll show you what my cockpit looked like. So I've got my stroke coach on the left, the telemetry on the right. The telemetry box there, it shows you, for me live, it shows me watts, it shows me stroke rate, it can show you your speed and it can show you your distance per stroke, I believe, or it might just be your meters, I can't remember. But you can set it up to show different things as well. And it is to show me and my coach what I'm doing. And every stroke if I wanted to, or over average over some pieces, and just to see the angles, the power, how the power is applied, when it's applied, am I rowing too long, am I rowing too short? And it's really interesting data to have to see, okay, along with the simple technique changes that we're trying to make, are they tying into what can improve the sort of data, the angles? For example, the simple changes that I might make, going to be a little bit longer, might be really, really good, but then when we look at the data on the telemetry, am I already rowing too long? Spoiler alert, no. But if I was, for example, rowing too long via the telemetry and you say, well, let's row longer, that would not be ideal. You kind of look for an ideal angle on the telemetry and then you work around there. So I would rather have the ideal angle and apply more power, be more efficient, or maybe even more rate, but that's not what I'm really looking for. I'm looking at rowing that bit longer and being a bit more efficient as I row longer. So that will be it for today's episode, Yam Squad. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Next week we have an interesting one. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. We have another round of GB rowing trials next weekend. This time it is down at Caversham, where the GB rowing team train. They won't be there this weekend or next weekend. They will be at the second World Cup in Lucerne. So good luck to the GB rowing team in the World Cup, because that's an awesome place, one, to row, and obviously to have an opportunity to race is amazing. So I'm really excited for next weekend down at Caversham, where I used to train when I was on the team. And it's just an interesting place to be as well, where you've had so many Olympians walk through the door and put some yam down on the ergs or on the water. So it's a cool place to be, and hopefully I can show you guys, probably not show you guys around, but show you guys at least bits of Caversham. So that's something for future Yam Squad to look forward to, so make sure you are subscribed for that. And then if you haven't hit the notification bell, maybe you could, and then when I do release my videos, you will be notified and you don't have to wait around. And of course, hit that like button if you haven't already, and I will see you down at Caversham next week. Oh yeah!